welcome to another episode of High Stakes with Steve Rozenberg, where we're going to talk about real life, real business, and real situations. Now, if you've followed me on any social media channel or you've ever learned anything about me, you know that I also have a career as an airline pilot. And I fly a Boeing 777, which is, we'll just say, a pretty large aircraft. I've flown 787s, 737s, 757s, and for those of you that are old enough, I've flown 727s. I have flown all over the world. I've been to every continent except Antarctica. And I've pretty much been, I don't know about every city, but I've been close to every city, major city, we'll say, in the world. We'll just say the ones that count. And you know, I've learned a lot. Some of the things I've learned, and a lot of people always want to know, is how do these airlines make this happen, right? And which I'm going to explain how this actually happens. But a lot of people want to know, like, how does this even work? Going from, you know, you buying a ticket today to say, on November 1st, I'm going to Amsterdam with my family, right? So you and the family all get your money together, you save up all of your scraps, and you decide you are going on a family vacation to Amsterdam November 1st. Okay, cool. How does that happen, right? How are you you are going to be guaranteed, for the most part, that you're going to get to Amsterdam November 1st. How does that work, right? And so a lot of people want to understand this, because think of what has to happen. These planes pretty much 24/7 for the most part are in the air flying from one place to another. As a matter of fact, if these planes sit, they don't make money. Shocker, right? So these planes have to stay in the air. The only time they're down is for maintenance. Other than that, if the engines are not turning and they're not in the air, they're not making money. Which means that these planes are constantly zigzagging everywhere. When they're zigzagging everywhere, they also have to have a very, very strict maintenance rules and regulations that they have to follow. So let me just take you down this path here to let you understand. And I'm going to tie this into business when I'm done. You buy your ticket November 1st, right? Or for November 1st. November 1st, you show up. You and the family are super excited. You got your coffees and lattes and all the other stuff. And you're sitting at the gate. And now this big Boeing 777 comes taxiing up. And you've heard me talk about this before in other videos. And all of a sudden, this plane comes up to the gate. Now, this is a huge aircraft. It weighs 775,000 pounds, gross takeoff weight. It holds about 360 people. And think about this. When this plane comes up to the gate, it's got passengers on it because they're coming from another destination. And those passengers now have to get off. They have to disembark the aircraft. So basically, it's like an apartment complex with wings. All these passengers are getting off the aircraft. Now, you've got all of their luggage getting off their aircraft, and that's getting put all out to all these different places, whether it's going to Cali, Colombia, Bogota, Tokyo, Japan, Orlando, LA, staying in the city. Let's just say you're starting in Houston, Texas, stays in Houston, Texas. All these bags have to go to the right place, because when you go to baggage claim, you're pretty much assuming that your luggage is going to be there. I mean, think how pissed you'd be if you found out your bag is en route to Tokyo, Japan, and you're in Houston, Texas. You're going to go, what the heck, right? So these bags are getting offloaded. All the cargo, right? These planes hold thousands and thousands of pounds of cargo that are in the belly of the aircraft. So the cargo is offloaded. Now, next thing you know, the fuelers have to hook up these fuel lines, these huge, massive fuel valves to this aircraft. This plane, okay, this aircraft, it holds about 230,000 pounds of fuel. Just think about that. Think of what your car carries, right? About 6.7 pounds per gallon. So if you have a 25-gallon tank, think of 230,000 pounds. It takes about 45 minutes to fuel this aircraft with very, very high pressure valves pushing fuel into there, just to give you a perspective of how much that is. Now, during this time frame, you have the cleaners. They're cleaning the airplane because all these people just got off a 15-hour flight, and they're not the cleanest people, let's say. So now cleaners have to clean the aircraft. Well, now catering has to restock the catering and the food and all the meals for your flight going to Amsterdam, okay? Now, all of a sudden, all the bags for all the people that want to go to Amsterdam are getting loaded onto the plane. All the cargo of that's wanting to go to Amsterdam, that's being paid for the airline to transport this, is getting boarded to go to Amsterdam. right? Now, you have maintenance. Maintenance is walking around the aircraft. They're doing all their safety checks. They're checking wheels, engines, all the things that have to be done. They're in the cockpit making sure all the systems are go. You got flight attendants. They're checking all the safety items in the aft, in the back part of the aircraft, in the plane. You got pilots. We're up front. We're checking weather, checking the destination. We're checking circuit breakers. We're checking systems. We're making sure our routing is good. We're doing all of this, okay? Now, I want you to think about this. 360 people get back onto this aircraft. Bags are loaded. Doors are shut. We are pushing back from the gate. All of this happens in about an hour. And none of us has had to talk to anyone else because we all knew what our jobs were. Think of how much a business system works, how perfect that system is. Now, what's even more impressive is that I can be in Tokyo, Japan. I can be in Sydney, Australia, London, England, Rio de Janeiro, anywhere in the world, Houston, Texas. It all works the same. Everybody knows their job. Now, we have safety items and we have systems, a lot of systems in place to catch mistakes, because mistakes are going to happen, right? It's obvious it's going to happen. I could be the best pilot in the world, but if I get out over the Atlantic and I realize I don't have enough fuel, it doesn't matter what everyone else did. It matters what the fueler didn't do, which was fuel the aircraft. So we have safety checks to make sure that we're checking everybody, but we never talk to anyone. Think of how effective that would be in your business if you could create systems that caught the other person and they caught people's mistakes, so that you could figure out triggers to make sure mistakes don't happen. A mistake in your business may be that maybe a contractor wasn't paid. Maybe a client wasn't paid. Maybe you didn't get the right amount. A mistake for us could be fatal. So our mistakes are, I'm not going to say they're worse than yours, but they could be catastrophic compared to a mistake that you may make or an employee may make. Now, I want to carry this on for you. Now, this aircraft, we're going to Amsterdam, which is over in Europe, and we have to cross the North Atlantic. So crossing the North Atlantic, we have what's called NAT tracks, North Atlantic tracks. These are tracks, there's 6 tracks, okay? These tracks are basically set up to help you, because whenever you're going from the westbound to eastbound to Europe, there are winds, there are tailwinds. So going, we want to be in the wind because it's pushing us faster, which gives us more fuel efficiency and gets us there faster. And coming back from Europe, we don't want to be in the wind, so we'll stay out of what's called the jet stream, which is basically a big river of wind. We stay out of the jet stream so those tracks will move. So going, the tracks are one direction. Coming back, the tracks are another based on wind. These tracks are 1 degree apart. So 1 degree is 60 miles. So there's roughly, I believe it's 6 tracks on the Atlantic. Every day they move based on wind. And those tracks are 1 degree apart, which is 60 miles, which means between tracks, you have 30 miles on one side and they have 30 miles on one side, 30 miles on the other. So it's 60 total. So we have 60 miles between us, so we can each maneuver 30 miles between each other. But they don't like that, so they give us 15 miles. So if we have something going on, we're allowed to go 15 miles each, which actually gives us a bubble of 30 miles in between for any deviations. Now, they say that roughly, I believe it's 300 aircraft a day are crossing the North Atlantic on the tracks to get to Europe. And every morning, most flights are coming back. So we leave in the evening time so that we can arrive in Europe or somewhere on the east side of the pond for business people to start their day. So we leave in the evening, afternoon, we come back in the morning so that when we get back to the US, we're here at a time of day that's, feasible for them. So when we get on these tracks, we have to get a clearance onto these tracks, okay? So what's important to understand is these can only deviate by 3 minutes. We're only allowed to be 3 minutes off from the time that we tell them. The track is like a freeway. And the first waypoint, it was about over like northern Canada, the Gander area, is we have to tell them we're going to be at this fix, this latitude, longitude fix at such and such time, such and such altitude, specific speed, and that's what we tell them we're going to be there. We have to be there within 2 to 3 minutes of that time. If we're not there in that time, we have to call them and let them know. The reason is because we have a bubble of security, of safety around us, that no aircraft is allowed to be in that 3-minute bubble. So when we get on the track, we are stacked 500 feet on top of each other, and we have what's called RVSM, which is vertical separation, basically. It's an enhanced system that if you don't have that, you have to be 1,000 feet. But if you have the enhancement on the aircraft, you can be within 500 feet stacked on each other. And so we all cross the tracks on this basic virtual freeway every night. And you can see all the other aircraft on the tracks. I mean, they're 60 miles apart, but you can see them. Sometimes you're going faster than the one below. You come under the belly of it or over the top of it, but you're just on the track. And everyone's on the track, and these tracks are about 450 miles apart. And every 450 miles, there's a waypoint, and that waypoint will position us to where we are, send it to the controlling facility. And there's a point that's kind of like the 50-yard line in the North Atlantic track. And that North Atlantic track, the 50-yard line, is called 30 West. And 30 West is where we actually transition to the next controller. So when you're coming from the US, we're talking with Gander control. And once we hit 30 West, now we flip over, now we're with Shanwick control. So we're with the European controllers. And then when we get to there, we've got to listen to their weird accents and funny things they say. And you got to listen up because now it's the crack of dawn. The sun's cracking over your eyes right at about sunrise. And you're trying to understand what they're saying, and they've got funny accents. But that's what we do. Now, once we get off the track, now we're in the European controlled airspace, and then we've got to fly all the different routes that they have in Europe to get to that airport, to get you to Amsterdam on November 1st. Actually, it's November 2nd because we just flew all night long. So just think about that. All of this happens. We land in Amsterdam. Your bags are there. When you get there, you're on vacation. Maybe you're connecting, right? Maybe you're going to Europe, or Germany. Maybe you're going to Russia. Maybe you're going, probably not Russia right now, but maybe you're going somewhere else. So now that you're doing all these things, just think about that. Think of how perfect that system is. I mean, you don't ever question, I wonder if my bags are going to make it. You're pretty much assuming they are. If they don't make it, it's a problem, right? So just think of that systemization in the business all the way from the time the aircraft pulls up to the gate, does the dance, as we call it, with all the baggage handlers and maintenance people and flight attendants and all that happens. We depart the 775,000 pound aircraft, right, into the air, 360 people sailing through the sky. We get on this NAT track at a certain specific time. We're filing this track. We got 300 aircraft essentially around us, all going the same direction. Everything happens, and you never once hear about an incident. Why is that? Well, it's because the airlines have such good systems. They've got such good training that we all know what we're doing. When I work with businesses, I show them this is how you want to build your business. You want to build your business the way airlines run, through systems, through structure, through scalability, right? So that you could be any city, USA, or in the world and know that it'll work. Many people talk about, oh, I'm different. My business is special. You know what? Let me tell you something. Think of an airline and think of how special they are. And they all do it the same, right? They all have specific skill sets. And more importantly, they all have very high success ratings. Why is that? Because they have systems, they have fail-safes to catch mistakes, and most importantly, they focus on training. Training is one of the biggest things the airlines do, and we all do everything the same. Do you do that in your business? Are you the person that emphasizes training, techniques, common use things, so no one is different, no one is individual, no one is special? Think about that and think how you could do this in your business, because at the end of the day, you could use this as your model. This is what I work with people on for growing their business. I mean, it's the perfect thing. You know, you've been on a plane. You see how efficient it is. Now, there's always the joke of losing bags or planes being late, but think about that. Think of how many planes are in the sky every day all over the world, and pretty much everyone gets to where they need to go. There's things like acts of God where there's weather, right? We can't control the weather. You don't want us going into a snowstorm or a driving rain thunderstorm, because then that would be dangerous. And that goes against our training. So we don't do that because we're trained not to do things that could kill us, because that would not be good. You should be glad when you have to divert to another airport, because it means we probably saved some lives because we didn't kill everyone by going into a driving thunderstorm that would pummel us into the ground. That is not something that you would want. So again, just think about all the things that go on in a business, all the things that go on in your business, and what are some things that you can improve upon to really help your business automate, systemize, and run through procedures and structure so that it can run very smooth, very succinct, so that you can do your going to Amsterdam for your business 6 months from now and know that it's going to happen. Without a doubt, it is going to happen. So hopefully this helps. I just want to give you some insight as an airline pilot and an entrepreneur and someone who owns businesses. This is something that I think is very, very helpful for people that have a business. And just think about that. Next time you're at the airport, watch the dance. When you're at the gate and you're watching this plane come in, that's the dance. That's what's all these people. You may think it's like a bunch of ants running around, but it's a very, very succinct dance. And it's very focused, it's very intentional, and it's time driven. I mean, these planes are in and out in really minutes. And if there was no system and no scalability and there was no training with the baggage handlers, with the cleaners, with the people that do the catering, if they didn't have training to do all that, could you imagine the chaos that it would be? How many things would not be on the aircraft? How much complaints there would be? If the pilots didn't have their training, do you know how many more crashes there would be if we didn't have such fanatical training? Think about that next time you get on the plane, and think about that within your business and what you can do to make your business run through systems and structure just like the airline. This is Steve Rozenberg with High Stakes with Steve Rozenberg. If you did like this episode, do me a favor, share it out with other people. I think more people need to learn about this, and I think this is very helpful for the entrepreneurs that are trying to be better and trying to make a difference in their lives and other people's lives. So thank you so much for watching, listening, podcasting, whatever you do. Thank you, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye-bye.